I am super excited to finally welcome Margo Tantau to my interviews. We talked about doing this interview a while back, and I'm so excited to finally get it done. Margo is a creative director. She spent decades in the product development and licensing space, working with artists to develop their brands. She's worked for companies like Creative Co-op, Midwest, Hallmark, Madison Park Group, and Studio M. So, I mean, the resume is like insane. Now she shares all her wisdom with artists through her various workshops, memberships, her podcast, Windowsill Chats, and offering courses through various channels. So we are so excited. I am so excited to talk to you. I don't know who we is. We've got
I got a couple of dogs with me.
Yeah,
I'm so excited to be here.
Usually there's small children lingering around, but thankfully today they're both at school. So,
well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled.
I'm excited to have you. To get things started, I just really, I obviously have a lot of background, but how did you get started on your design path? How did you get into product development and all that?
Oh gosh, early on, really, my mom was an interior designer. So we always were thinking, she was always talking about pattern and color and matching things together. So I saw that even from an early age, she would do products and try and get them into the market. She did a needlepoint house kit with her friend and, needlepoint house purse kit. So, things like that. And I was just always interested in it. Really, I was a design major in school and I didn't know what on earth I was going to do with it. I thought if you were a design major, you needed to be a practicing studio artist, basically. I mean, certainly there was interior design and window design and photography and things like that, but I didn't really know quite where that was going to go. So I just kind of made my way.
I think people have this, like, anyone who's not an artist, even if you are an artist, but if you're getting started, I feel like you think there's three paths, which is like fine artist, graphic designer, and maybe interior designer. I don't even know. And really there is so much more than that.
Gosh, there's so much. I actually, one of the things I got to do for several years, which was very rewarding, was go speak to a wonderful art school in the Dominican Republic, and it's called I can't even think, Altos de Chavan, and it's a sister school to Parsons.
Oh wow.
And the whole thing was just that, like there was these young, super creative kids, and the three majors were fine art, studio art, graphics, and clothing. And so the whole reason I would go talk to them was to tell them that's what you think you're studying, but really what there is this vast world of what if you want to go into packaging? What if you're going to be a video designer? What if you're designing props or finding props or designing sets, just a million things. So anyway.
Yeah, there really are. The options are endless, and it's hard to think about that. And that's something I think for surface pattern especially, and for art for products, it's like we spend our whole lives around products that have art all over them, but it does take like some certain snap, some certain click to say, oh wait, that's actually someone's job. Like, even though we see it all the time, it's just like, oh wait, that could be me.
So my son's dad designs all the games on the back of the General Mills cereal boxes. Do you ever think about that somebody actually
No, of course not. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. Yeah, exactly. We just don't think about those things. So, I'm always interested in talking about the path that people take to get where they are, because it's always so extremely different from one another. And there's just so many ways to get where you're going. And one of the things that I really love about hearing how people get where they're going is how they sort of merge their past lives, past professions, careers, jobs, whatever, with, what they're doing now, and merging those two skill sets really makes for like amazing work, it seems. So do you have any sort of lessons or things that you've really taken with you from your past professional life that really help you now as more of an independent artist and maker?
You're so right. I love how the various things sort of give different edges to the shape that you become. I always I always was a bit of an entrepreneur early on. I was thinking about this morning as I was thinking over this conversation. And, you think when I graduated from college, it was still sort of that you're supposed to graduate, find a job, and that's your career. Like that is your life career. And I had major stress around that fact because I really wanted to start. I really wanted to work with a certain person. I really wanted a certain job. I'm not even going to say it out loud because you never know who's listening. But so I couldn't have that job right away. So I did a couple things. Then I got that job, and I was miserable. It was very stressful. It was not the job, because I learned a lot there. It was the personality conflicts.
Yeah.
And I've always been somebody that really I need to work with. Why not work with people that you enjoy and like and are learning from each other and moving each other forward, right? That's it sounds simple, but it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, true.
So actually my entrepreneurial life, making my own product, having a retail store, having a wholesale showroom, that got me only to a certain point. And then I really felt like I wanted to learn more about manufacturing than I was able to on my own. I wasn't going to take myself to China and India and have a big warehouse. I just didn't want to do all of that. I knew it would take me away from creativity if I did that. So that's when I went into more corporate. So really from probably my 20s to for 20 years, probably, I did my own thing. And then I went and learned from bigger companies on how they did that. And then you kind of get sucked into that whole thing, which is fascinating. But I think the fascinating part, again, to use that word 20 times, is what that creates for you, because you really do learn different things each way. Like one of those larger companies I worked for, I really thought, oh my gosh, they're big. They've been here for a long time. They're going to have it all figured out. And I got there and realized, maybe I'm actually
no one has it figured out.
No one does. Maybe I'm bringing a little bit more fluidity than they're used to, and maybe I'm really going to just learn about politics here, or those things. But I love, and I'll probably never stop working with small companies who want to be artful. But my favorite passion of all is helping artists get further than they knew they could. Kind of seeing that star that needs to be shined up a little bit and given a little confidence. And I do the same thing in product development. I see that lump of clay that could be something wonderful, but translating that into a person's potential is really what I love to do. And doing it in the way, by being involved in the things I can do that in a broader way.
Love that. It's really hard to pinpoint that kind of stuff, right? And it takes some like digging of, I feel like as being an entrepreneur, like I'm always hearing the advice of like, what's your why, what's behind what you do? And I come from a place where I have always wanted to be a designer of something functional. Before I even knew what surface pattern was, it was like, oh, I'll probably be a graphic designer or maybe like an illustrator for a book. Like I wasn't ever going to be a fine artist. That wasn't for me. And so I remember I even had a project in college where we had to do like a poster that was supposed to give a message. And having been in the middle of all these art history classes where everything had a message, every little paint stroke meant something, my message for my poster was basically, sometimes art is just art. And you wonder why I land in decorative surface pattern design. Like,
I love that.
It's just pretty because it looks cute and we want it, Not everything, like, purple isn't always royalty or like whatever, trauma or whatever the colors.
Exactly. And were they really putting all that into their paintings, or were they just painting?
I'm like, no, it's not always like that. But when you do art history, it's like, that's just the way it goes. You have to analyze everything. So where I was going with that is like, I started out as a place where there really was no why except for it looks cute and I love it. But as you dig deeper, you start to find like through lines. And I've had the same thing of having taught more in the last couple of years than I had previously, and just, you know, seeing people make those connections and realizing like what you thought was obvious is not obvious, like to most people. And
so true.
that is so super rewarding. So yeah, we forget that, you know.
We do. My uncle used to say to my mom, "What is Margo doing now?" Because I, you know, jumped around a bit, and I remember thinking, "Gosh, I really need to find that thing." But what we don't realize is all those parts and pieces add up to who we are. It's our story. It's our magic sauce, really. And like you said, what about it being so precious? If you can step away, and I know we'll get into this, but you can step away from owning your stuff so tightly, you'll get so much further. Because does it have to be purple, or can you just kind of be loose about it and then not own it so much? And then other people, it's easier to have a job in this industry, is what it is.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, I really like that. I think, you know, but distilling it is the hard part, because then it's like, it's the journey, but how do you put the journey in like an elevator pitch, right? You know, almost. And you have to be clear. Everything has to be an elevator pitch. It's not even your business, your art. I was just doing a portfolio review for someone earlier today, and she had such beautiful work. But the way it was being presented, I was like, you have to imagine that anyone looking at your art, well, we're going to get into this question anyways, maybe I should, but you know, like quick impressions. You have to be able to, it needs to be fast and it needs to be obvious. So that's the same with, I feel like, figuring out why you do what you do. It's like, I feel like I need to get it into like 2 sentences or a sentence, and ooh, it's hard to do that.
It is hard. I literally used to ride the elevator up at Hallmark, because I was on the, I don't know, 8th floor or something. And I would ride that elevator and be like, can I get it into 1 sentence?
I love that. That's a timing. I love it.
I couldn't. It was so hard to do. I'm like, what do I do? I do so many things. And the elevator door would open and I'd be like, okay, here I go.
Didn't get it today, maybe tomorrow. I love that. Well, you know, I think, we're sort of talking about it already, but one thing that I'm, you know, trying to do more of this year is, first of all, easy. It needs to be like, I've been hustling enough. I'm over it. After 2020, I'm like, oh, let's just take it easy. And not like, you know, lazy, but just like, It doesn't have to be that hard. It doesn't have to be that forced. So loving my art for what it is, and, you know, rethinking how I make a living, and how, you know, where is my time going that's really valuable, and all that. And obviously with, you know, we've heard of the Great Resignation. Obviously a lot of people are rethinking their careers because of this pandemic, and what success really means, and work-life balance, and all that stuff. So all that to ask, what was it that sort of led you away, now that I see that you started sort of entrepreneurial, got into the corporate, and I feel like it's easy to kind of not coast, but like, obviously you're a super curious person, but it is easy to kind of stick on that path. What has, you know, spurred you to sort of get more independent and build your personal brand a little bit more?
You know, I think it was the fact that I was on my own for so long previously, and I love to make my own decisions without a giant committee. I really don't understand how making mass decisions with a lot of people creates anything trendworthy.
It's not efficient. It
just makes me crazy. So I think it was really my DNA probably of being an entrepreneur, and knowing that feeling of gratification of getting somebody's portfolio together, teaching somebody how to get their product on a thing, instead of when you're just and you're really doing the 9 to 5, driving, commuting, getting in there, figuring out that thing. And of what falls away is the freshness and the potential of a new idea going out there. So for me, it's being able to make decisions, being able to help people directly grow. And I am, the other thing, again, as I mentioned before, is is personalities. If I'm not working with people that are respecting their fellow peers and respecting all the work that their employees are doing for them, I'm not, there was a time when I really thought I had to stick with that, and you don't really, you don't. So I love working with companies like Studio M, who are just put their people in such high regard, no matter what that person is doing. Is that person, printing something? Are they wrapping a pot? Are they designing something? Are they sweeping the floor? Like, there's been a few wonderful companies that I've worked for like that. But really, how can I help connect people to each other and connect them to what they love? It's being able to be lithe and put more of that into the world.
Yeah, I love that. I never anticipated being a freelancer and being my own thing. The reason I did it was because I wanted to move out of New York City, and I wasn't moving to LA or San Francisco. So I was like, okay, so where else is there to have like a full-time pattern job, basically? So knowing that I wanted to leave the city, I went into freelance so that I could have that mobility. But I thought it was going to be an easy transition, and I was wrong, because it's two different careers. It really is two different careers. Like, yes, I was doing the same design work that I was doing in-house, but running your own, even, now I think of it as my own creative business, and I'm an entrepreneur and all this stuff. But, originally it was like, I'm a freelancer. Like, I'm a designer. That's number one of my identity. And number two is I freelance design. Like, so it was really more just about the getting the gigs and all that versus like how I'm presenting myself. And either way, in both situations, it's a big shift from corporate, for sure.
Yes, it really is, because it's so nice to get that paycheck. It's really nice. And it can help and hinder at the same time. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. It's a thing, and to that mindset shift of freelancer or whatever it is. Like, I've certainly lived places I never thought I would, because I was going there for that job. And to be able to choose where you live, choose the community, both physical and online, that you're involved with, is pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And I know we talked about it when I was on Windowsill Chats, I think, but there is also, because now I'm in this ecosphere, is that a word?
I like it.
This like spot where, online, I'm getting so much input from like other artists and other like online businesses, and creatives. It's, there's such a disconnect between the people who do have that corporate experience. Like, I wish that everyone could have that corporate experience, because how much has it informed the way that I approach my creative business as it is now. It's there. I think there's a certain amount of like, I don't know, when you've never worked in a corporate position and you just like you're an artist and you want to spread your art, it's a less practical thing and a more like, I don't know, it's a different skill set, let's say.
It really is. And there really are recipes that you have to follow. I mean, you can add salt and pepper and za'atar, but you're still going to have to put it in the oven, so it's really interesting working in corporate, because I went into it with these are my favorite kind of products. Of course, this is what people want, but I was coming from a very small slice. My business was very successful, but I was a small business. This was a big business needing to pay for all their things to keep them going. So they weren't looking to make the things that more top tier person was going to buy first. They were looking to make what the general shopper was going to buy, and to switch my head from, but I don't like that as much, to how can I bring a little of this to that person and kind of edge them up a little bit as I go, as well as the people that are making the decisions.
Yeah.
Those are learnings that you just have to keep going. You just have to keep learning. And so if I can spread, if you can spread, if we can share some of that with the people that are trying to figure it out without having to step into corporate or whatever, that's all the better, because you really do have to follow a few rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with that, do you have any advice for people who want to make that jump from they're working in the corporate and now they're hearing us, the freedom that we have. They want to make that jump, but as we said, like the paycheck, man, I mean, the stability, it is hard to get paid around here. So here.
If there's any way to keep your, I think, who was I talking to? Somebody recently, but, because you worked in New York and because you have those connections, and whoever is listening and who has a career that they'd like to shift, don't forget that you have some great contacts because of that career, and you have people that know how you work, and you can call somebody at company ABC over here and say, hey, can we collaborate on a project? So it's who it's what it's how to, if you step away, can you keep a contract somewhere? Mm-hmm. Can you say to the job where you are, if you like it well enough, hey, I'm gonna what do you really need from me? Can I do this for you 3 days a week for half the salary, so XYZ is being paid, or something like that? I mean, that might be a creative way to do it. Or can you rearrange your time differently, so you're putting most of what you do, I mean, I know this isn't what anybody wants to hear, but can you do your stuff on the weekends while you pay for that thing, or when you're ready to step away? Just network and collaborate, and make sure that it's going to take a minute, especially if you're going into licensing, which we can both nod in agreement. It can be lucrative, but don't forget, you license that first thing. I was going to pick something up. You license your art for that first thing. You're not going to get paid right away. You're going to get paid when it sells.
In like 2 years.
Exactly. But then if you're consistent, or even if you're partially consistent, then those checks in that amount of time is going to go. So if you can kind of plan for that, whether it be stay in your job and start figuring that out, or go part-time, or make sure you're collaborating with somebody, or, just know that, here's my favorite part. If you think, I'm going to leave my job, I want to do this someday, someday's going to get here anyway, hopefully, knock on wood. So if you don't start now, if I didn't start my podcast, or if you didn't start this YouTube channel when you did, you wouldn't have had the wonderful conversations, the connections, the ability to work with people that you have. So start now is my advice.
Is my catchphrase too. I love it. Of course. Start now. There really is no way. You just got to dive in. I love the idea, of course, for financial stability, doing something like a part-time situation, something that takes the pressure off of having to, because I basically thought, my husband, I did have a partner who could support, but also I really thought that it wouldn't be too hard to pick up like at least some work. And I did actually. Honestly, I act like I was such a failure at first when I really wasn't. I made pretty much like an entry-level salary the first year, which is awesome. What many people only make a part-time or make $2,000 for the whole year when they first start, so I can't really complain. But
and the other thing is too, that sometimes if you pad your landing too much, you won't maybe jump as hard. That's
the thing. I was immediately doing 40 hours a week of like scrambling to like try to fill the time,
which is, sometimes if you make yourself, it's that when you only have a certain amount of time to get something done, you're much more efficient. So sometimes when you jump, those wings have to take you there. So
yeah, I love that. Well, speaking of this, the thing that people are, everyone's biggest pain point in my audience is finding clients, pitching, making those connections, making that money. Which actually reminds me, when you were saying like, keep your connections, I wanted to make the point that even if your connections are not at all in product design, in surface pattern, in art, that's fine. If you work for like the local dog groomer or whatever, like that doesn't mean that those people don't have something that they can
100%.
offer you in your art career, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But anyways, making those connections with art directors and people who can actually give people art jobs is, the biggest pain point that there is, pretty much. And marketing and getting yourself out there, figuring out the art is already hard enough, but then the marketing and getting yourself out there is like a whole nother level. You, I'm sure, have received many a pitch in your corporate career. Do you have any advice for people who are getting ready to pitch their work this year? I mean, you can go, I know this is like this could be a 7-week course, but.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I had the aha moment of, everybody says, what's that question you get asked all the time, and just put a course together or something. Well, I'm not going to put a course together on this. I mean, maybe eventually, but I am working. I had a one-on-one with one of that wonderful artist I get to work with. And she was asking me this, and I was like, wait a minute, why don't I put together kind of a questionnaire and a tip sheet she said, all I want is a start to a letter. Could you just help me? I was like, I think I'll do that for more than just you. So yes, pitching it's both the most archaic way that we have to do it because of how it is, but it's not really going to change, because think about it. People changed their jobs. So you can't go to company, the Daisy company, and say, oh my gosh, Daisy company, I love this company, I want to be in here. Who's the buyer for, surface pattern design or product, tabletop? Mm-hmm. Well, they might have been there 10 years. You had your in, and they left yesterday, so you don't know. And sometimes also what happens is, for a while there, is I was noticing companies were having these wonderful people that got it, and then they would hire somebody fresh and new that thought they knew everything. It was, you just never know who you're going to put your work in front of. Mm. So there's a lot of ways. One of the things that I thought was really interesting and that I've added to my toolbox is, especially when COVID started, companies like Anthropologie, when like really in March, April or May of 2020, we're saying, okay, hey, I'm the buyer for, tabletop, to continue that. And my name's Mary Jo Smith, and here's my house, because everybody was inside, and here's what I'm excited. And I was like, hey, Mary Jo Smith, tabletop, so it really is about the legwork. But the best thing is to be when you write a pitch, don't be a blanket, don't make it feel like you just changed the name at the top. Do a little research on that company. Say it's Studio M. I see that you make wonderful things for the garden. I feel like I have things that, would easily fit into your line. I would love for you to take a look. And again, like you said earlier, if you're sending that, and I'll get to how you know who to send it to, but if you're sending that email, newsletter, whatever it is, pop something visual in there, because if it's just words, am I looking for words? No. Am I reading?
You have
them?
To include art. Yes. I hope that's obvious, but it is not. You're right. So say it out.
But not even a link. Put a picture there and then the link, like something that's going to grab it. And it's back to that same thing you've heard 100 times, but even the title of the email, have it be something, the subject line that is noticeable. But how to get to that person, LinkedIn, I feel like, is a really, really good way. The other really, really good way is, hey, Creative Co-op, I'm calling customer service, and I'd like to know, if I'm submitting art, who should I email that? Can you give me the best email address for that person and their name?
That's what I say, get on the phone in my course. That's of course one of the suggestions. And I have a gif of like someone being like, no, because no one wants to be on the phone anymore. But it's like so simple to connect, It's like, I mean, it's no one wants to do it. I get it because I don't even want to call to order my pizza.
On the phone. I know. But you guys, you really do. You can't text message or DM the customer service person. It just doesn't really exist. Call them. That's their job. And they'll tell you. It's really just have a day, listen to some good music, make yourself a great cup of coffee, and make a list of those people you're going to call. Find their numbers. It's not hard. Google it. You'll find it. Call them.
Yeah.
Make that list of your 20 companies you would love to be in front of.
Mm-hmm.
Find out a little bit more about them so you can be specific. And then I have one more tip that hardly anybody does.
Oh my goodness.
This blows me away. People think this is wrong to do, but it's not. Say you are, I'm going to pick this up because it's right here. Say you really love this company that specializes in these mice that have patterns on them, right?
Yeah.
Put your pattern on one and send it to them. Don't just say, I think my designs would be great for that. Put your designs on the thing and show them. Because and people are like, really? They don't think, yes, really, because guess what? You just did their work for them. You automatically gave yourself a much better chance of being seen. Much better.
I love that.
Here's another example. Do they do wrapped paper boxes? Put your design on the wrapped paper box and send that to them. I'm not kidding. It works.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. That is excellent. I'm like thinking back to my pitches. I do try to do a little bit of that. And I've gotten into mock-ups more. I used to sort of say, oh, you can, I used to sort of advise like, yeah, you can have them, but you don't have to have them. Now I'm like, yeah, you should have a mock-up most of the time. Like at least a couple on your website. You don't have to have them everywhere all the time, but.
Right. And especially when you're in the door and you're working with a company, you might have had one collection with a company. So this is even, congratulations, but you want to keep that, right? You want to keep that relationship because so often it could be one and done. So if then it's easier even then to say, hey, Sue, what are you working on now? Here are some things that I've prepared and can we have a conversation? Because you're already in the door and they're like, oh gosh, she was so easy to work with. She answered my calls right away. She sent her artwork in the right size and format, then all that stuff comes into play.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was going to, so you pretty much answered the next question being like, what can make you sort of stand out or seem like a good bet to work with? And you can't always convey, that you're super diligent and you're going to be right on the ball and all that stuff. But even I feel like one sentence in your email to say like, I have a reputation for doing this. That's like a good work thing is useful,
That's such a great point. I have a reputation for being really organized. I have a reputation, or just follow through, be diligent, be kind, and don't overdo it, but just know who do you like to work with? You guys out there thinking, do you like to work with or collaborate with somebody that's going to pull their weight? Yeah. So pull your weight, kind of make sure you know how they want your art submitted. You do that with a smile. Is there anything else you need? It might be due on the 15th, get it in by the 13th or the 12th. Kind of know ask them what their art schedule is, have that posted. Hey, I know you guys are working on, spring. Here's my latest downloads. Would love to chat with you. You help them and they'll help you.
Yes, 100%. I love that. And I think, there's so much front loading with pitching because you are right. To do it well, you need to do that research and you need to learn about these companies. So you're looking up, information on who you're contacting. You're trying to get information on what they sell, which or like what type of art they do, which is not hard for something like anthropology, but with some of these more private label companies, it can be difficult if you don't have like a wholesale account with them. You don't see everything that they do. So, you know, there is a lot of research up front. So I think when people get to the point where they finally send out that email, they got their portfolio, they got everything all together, whew, hit send, hooray, then when they don't hear things, you know, it's disappointing. We're always disappointed. They might do one follow-up, but following up is really like you lose a lot of steam after you've climbed that huge hill just to send out that first email. And that is something that I think people miss. The follow-up, not just one follow-up, like keeping it going is so important. And that's something that I suggest to people is like, remember that you have to, like, don't expect a response the first time. Like, really just don't. Just expect that as you waved at someone across the room. Okay. That was you waving across the room. Right.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think there's no more deflating thing than working on this so hard, sending it out, and crickets.
Yeah.
But remember, I love that you said it's like waving across the room, because it is. I mean, I know it's a lot of work, but you are focusing on that email. You have focused maybe 20 years on that email. The person you're sending it to doesn't even know that it exists. I'm not to be
it's true.
You know, but
no, that's the hard truth. Yeah. I mean, they have an email inbox full.
Yeah. It's the wave across the room. It's honestly, and if anybody listening, if I haven't answered your emails, I'm so sorry. But here's how I find my emails. I search, because I have pages. I have an assistant. I mean, I have somebody helping me say, did you see this? Literally, because I get so many emails as an art director, no matter where I worked. It was, have you updated your computer? Do you know that your reviews are due? You know, and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And tucked in there might be an email that I would like to see if I opened it. I might not have even seen it. And I might have been like, oh my gosh, there's an email from Elizabeth. I want to make sure I open that. And then 3 weeks later, it's like, oh crap, I got an email from Elizabeth. Where was that? Mm-hmm. So follow up, you guys. It is not about you. It is. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds like, I don't know, dear Abby, but
that's what people need to know. And that's the thing. It's not personal. So that should make it easier. That should let people, you know, be free. It's not a personal attack when you don't get a response. It's like what the stories you're making up in your head of why someone's not responding are always 1,000% worse than what's actually happening, which is, I just didn't see it or whatever.
Sorry, exactly. So to your earlier point, follow up. Do you send one more time? No. You send it a couple more times. Hey, Margo, you might have missed it, but I would have sure loved for you to take a look at my latest collection. And maybe I didn't see it again. So I usually think, like, if you don't hear anything, give it a couple weeks. Send it again. If you still don't hear anything, couple more weeks. Send it again. And then after about 3 times, I think, okay, so then hang back a little minute. But when it comes a couple months later and the season's changed, or you have something new you want to show, do it again. The same thing, new art, but do it again. I'd love, because guess what? Guess what they say about the squeaky wheel? If I see that email coming in my inbox, even though I haven't opened it, and you're being consistent, I'm opening it. Finally, right? It might be finally, but it might be that I just haven't gotten to it. And maybe it's something that I don't need. Maybe it's something that personally, if I take the time to dig in and look at it, I'm going to let you know one way or the other. So, and I always try as an art director to say, oh my gosh, Elizabeth, I love this. I'm sorry, it's not what I need right now. Have you thought about this company? Or here's what we're doing next. I sure would like to. Or I dug into your portfolio and I saw that your lettering was really strong. Maybe, you know, so.
Oh my goodness. Well, you're a dream of an art director. Not everyone would do all that. But I mean, that's just time-wise. It's not, you know, that's amazing.
It's not about you, dear artist. It's so hard. But be brave. Like, don't let that, you know, comparison, self-doubt get in your way. If you want to do this, if you want to keep doing this, it's part of the game. It's just part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And that's the thing you have to, yeah, I agree. I mean, we could go on forever on this topic, but I'll shift away a little bit.
True.
Okay. So Windowsill Chats, love the podcast. And I know so many other people do too. It's been a real success, and you've gotten the opportunity to talk to so many wonderful artists, makers, all different types of people from your past and from whoever else is coming in. I've been loving doing these interviews for myself. I mean, I'm glad that my audience likes it, and trust me, they're going to love this one, but I love it for myself because I learned so much. Have you had any like recurring themes or like real like light bulb moments from your conversations through Windowsill Chats?
Oh gosh.
I mean, there's so many. I like instantly forget things.
A couple. First of all, back to what you said about people's creative paths and how I've talked to so many people that's parents or they thought they needed to be this to be successful. They needed to have a business degree or something like that. And they went into that loving art or having been good at it, maybe in third grade or, and then shifted back to that in some way in their lives. And the importance of just being in touch with your gut and what it's telling you. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, and keep me honest on this, if you see me shifting away from this on Windowsill Chats, but I love the stories of the people we haven't necessarily heard of, as well as the stories of the people we have heard of, because everybody's path is equally interesting to me and equally important, honestly. So I really, and the more visibility the podcast has, the more people I have coming to me and saying, hey, I have this person you should, and I just have it's not hard for me to remember, but I always want to remember, I want to have the person that you haven't heard of, because that story might be even more interesting because we've already heard the other one, maybe several times. So I just love the humanness of being able to sit down and hear somebody's
I really agree. I really
adventure.
agree with that. Someone asked me like who would be sort of like a dream person to interview, and I like literally had no answer. I was just like, they're all amazing. Like everyone, like, I don't know. It's like, I find my guests usually from like, it's just people I follow on Instagram and I'm obsessed with their art. Like that's all it is.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily famous people. It's like working artists. It's people who I know are doing the work in this industry. And that's why I want to talk to them, because I want to hear about how they do the work and how they got into the work and all the things. It's
exactly. It's the realness that all of us are wading through that. I mean, you could see that one that was like, oh, I did this and it worked and here I am. Or like, okay, here's what I do every day to keep me going till tomorrow.
Yes. I was just having a conversation yesterday. Some would say it's like course season. A lot of people are marketing courses and things right now in the year. I mean, always, but, and my friend was tired of all those emails and tired of sort of like the marketing machine. And, I think he was saying, oh, it's like so much more, the story is so much more interesting when it's like there's struggle to it, not just like, oh, I showed up and my art was wonderful and it worked out and like whatever. You want to know that realistically it's not like that, and I do try to, I always say about my, like I really thought freelancing was going to be easy. It was not easy. I was wrong, and it's, and even still, you have to, hearing people's like what they're really, the things that are difficult make it so much like more, not just relatable, but like it makes you, I don't know, it just sticks better than like this major success story,
I really, because we then we feel like, oh my gosh, she really is like me, or they really are doing something that I can relate to, and that, and it, and I think the course promotion season is going to be more and more, it's just what is. Like the more people realize they can put their, they can share their work out there, and we're trying to work from home. And, I think it's how it is. So to your point, can we relate to what they're saying? Mm-hmm. Are they saying something that feels humanized, or is it that long form, like just show me how much it costs before I have to go through 10 pages, Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of being in touch with that realness, which brings it back to the everyday person. Yeah.
And I think, I was listening to it as someone who sells courses and as someone who's actually launching a group coaching program coming up. And there's these things you're taught. I say this for my students too. You're going to highlight the positive stuff, of course. Right. It doesn't, I'm into being real, but also if you get 10 seconds to like listen to my pitch, my elevator pitch, it's not going to be like, this is a really hard industry and I don't know anyone who can make $1 bajillion with licensing or whatever. I mean, I don't even sell about licensing per se, but just to say like, I'm going to give the like positive parts of things. Anyone would, and they should. And if your elevator pitch is like negative, then you're going to start over again. And, right. And, as an artist too, like if you're pitching yourself as an artist, so it's just, it's hard to balance that realness with the immediate impression of what people take away from you. And it's not always your choice what people take away from what you're putting out there.
Almost never.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Good point. Touche. Yeah, I know. People they take their like 3 minutes of a hour-long, interview and they come away with their takeaways. And sometimes that's really astute and like, wow, I never would have thought of that. And sometimes it's like, oh, that really wasn't what I was thinking. Right. I was projecting at all,
which goes back to the portfolio, right? You have wherever on a YouTube channel or a podcast or a portfolio or that wave across the room, you have that much time. So yeah.
So let's see. You like community. Obsessed with community. As we said, we love having these conversations. We love talking with people. I know you've done courses with Lola Rogers, and obviously I teach some courses, and meeting the students and like having that like online community is so important. And as we're saying, it is totally like the online world of what's being offered is only expanding. Memberships, group coaching, all that kind of stuff. Finding the right like squad, the right membership, the right whatever people to hang out with is tricky, and making those decisions of where you're going to put your time into. And you have a membership called Relish Your Creativity. I'd love to know more about that, and also, how you see being able to like determine how people can determine from those quick, impressions, or even the long form sales page, what might be right for them.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think, again, there's a lot, right? There's a lot out there. There's a lot to choose from. Like I might want to be in more than one community, and I am in more than one community, sure. Right? Because for me, they hit different things. Mm. So I co-host Relish Your Creativity with Natalie Shepard, who she's a maker, she's a weaver, she's very into small business. She's also been on Shark Tank, with the company that she took there. So she gets it. She's also, where our age is different, so we might bring a slightly different perspective to it. But I like that I've been in the corporate sector and she's been in the small maker sector, but we're both makers and business people. And so we taught a few online courses that we wanted to keep very small. The price was different. The attention given to each person was intense and time, it was a lot of work and really, it was kind of really digging in. Mm-hmm. And we felt like after we'd taught those courses, that people were really wanting to keep, like they'd formed pretty close bonds with the people that they'd shared a lot with. So how do I kind of keep that going? So I had been thinking about a community separately than Natalie, and we thought, hey, we kind of feel like we need a place to continue this in some way. Let's join forces on this. So that's where that was, that's how that was formed. And we started it last June. And it was one of those things where we just like jumped in. And we're, because doing surveys and things like that with people that are in the community and kind of continuing to see what's working and not, we've been refining it every month, because you always want to offer the best that you can for the time. So it's really, it really feels good. Like we sat down probably in December and charted out the whole year, and each month has kind of a different theme. It's creative business, it's creative mindset, all that, different people coming in and speaking. But the thing that we wanted to make sure we did was have some face-to-face every month. And then have resources too, that if you couldn't join face-to-face, and if you just start in one place, those resources, there might be in my head, I might not have recorded them all yet. So that's building up. So so what I think is important for Relish your community, or Relish your creativity, or any community, is that's the community word. Do you feel a sense of kinship? You're going to get that wherever you go, but is what is being offered and the other people there, and kind of, are you on the same page? Are you going to find a group to hang with? Are you going to feel like it's a space where you can be yourself, even if you don't ever want to talk? Are you listening to people that are saying things that are on the same wavelength as you? So I think as I look at these communities, Art Brand Alliance is another one. That's a good one. Certainly yours. There's just, and I feel like I see new ones all the time. So I make a choice. How long do I need to commit for? Can I go in and check it out and see if it's going to work for me? Do I have the time? Are there resources that are going to benefit me? And are these my people? Because I've also spent a lot of time in the past COVID years in a small mastermind, where I probably would not have waved across the room at these people, but I love that we're so different and we bring something into it. Because I, as a creative, I like to learn something else from maybe a different career path that then I can bring in. So that's another way to look at it. But I just think community, especially for us creatives, where I sit in this space all day by myself, or when I can, I'm not going to get on the phone, but Zoom or a community or something I can touch into, or being able to leave a comment on some beautiful piece of art that I see. That's where my connections happen.
Yeah, I know. It's so important, and it's hard to, I think you're right. It is about the people. It can be hard to figure that out before you join something, especially if it's something like a membership that maybe is not a ton of money and you can join for like 1 month and check it out. That's one thing. But if it's something like a group coaching program, or a mastermind that's a little bit more like you're locked in for 3 months or 6 months, and it's, a more substantial investment, that can be tricky because you don't really know what's going to happen. But as far as with the people there, but yeah, when you find that right, combination and of people who are committed to showing up, right? It's all just about showing up. So
it really is.
People who will be on that Zoom call and over again, you're going to learn, you're going to be able to take away so much from other people's experiences. So,
and we do a cool thing, or something that I'm glad we do. And it's the second Thursday. So we meet live on Thursdays a couple times a month, and then, things are recorded. But the second Thursday of the month, we always open it to anybody. So you can come in and say, hey, did I enjoy that conversation? That seemed real, or, oh, that didn't fit with me at all. So it's an opportunity to check it out for
I love
free.
that.
And those are always the second Thursday of the month at 9 Pacific time. And
Awesome.
that's
yeah, I'm gonna have all links in the description, of course, so you guys can check out all the amazing things that Margo is offering. I have a couple more questions. We're getting towards the end. Okay, let me wrap it up then. I know your thing that you've been offering recently that you're excited about. I really want to hear more about, because I think you did your first one recently, and that's the Windowsill Workshops.
I know all the words, right? This is probably the thing I'm most excited about of anything. Certainly the community is near and dear to my heart, but Windowsill Workshops, I feel like when I listen to a podcast, like it's like in the old days when we had magazines and somebody's house would be in there and you'd think like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be cool to know that person? Well, in Windowsill Chats, there's so many great stories. What if you could actually sit down and learn creatively, take yourself, like we were talking about this whole time, take yourself out of that and just have a creative moment for a couple of hours, be in community with people. So what Windowsill Workshops is it's somebody you've heard on Windowsill Chats that's teaching you something on a Saturday where you just can get supplies that you probably already have, or maybe you just have to buy a new X-Acto knife or something, and turn on your Zoom, find a little space to join in for 2.5 hours, or it doesn't have to be on the Saturday. They're all recorded and available later. But then you can ask that artist. We had our first one. It was Bethany Andrews Nichols from Bonanza Designs, and we did block printing. And it was like hanging out.
Yeah.
People brought their kids. It was so fun, you guys. And so it's just that time to be creative. Even if you never block print again, you have a new pair of jeans with cool things on them or whatever it is.
Oh my gosh.
And so I don't know when this is going to air, but we've got Tracy English coming and doing collage.
Ooh, I want to do that one.
Estee McLeod's doing something cool. We've got, I don't have it all kind of figured out yet. Dale Bennett, she's wonderful. She's from Atlanta, and she's going to come in and I don't know what she's going to do yet because we haven't quite figured it out, but it's going to be wonderful. And I'm just starting to plan it out because I have 75 guests on Windowsill Chats, you being one of them. So it's like, who wants to teach, who does something, kind of maybe different from last week's person, and just, stay tuned. But I'm into it. So maybe other people will be too.
Other people for sure will be. And you know what? I'll put all the links in the description. Check it out, guys. But what I like about that is, there's a lot that I like about it, but even just saying that it's on a Saturday, it makes it feel like it's more, first of all, a fun thing rather than a work thing, right?
It's not a work thing.
But also, it's like a real workshop, because if you're signing up for something at your local, whatever community center, it's probably going to be a Saturday or after work. And I schedule so much of my stuff in the work week because it's, that's the time I have, and versus having the kids around and all that stuff. But if you're going to take the time out, if you told me I was doing a workshop for 2.5 hours in the middle of the work week, I might be a little bit like, oh, that's cutting into my actual work time. But when you say Saturday, you're going to take some time for yourself, you're going to tell the kids, you're going to have your husband watch the kids, and you're going to block print, then that's ooh, I'm like it's as if I'm going to the community center, and as if, I'm doing this fun activity. So I really love that. Even though it's on Zoom, it really it seems like it does have a real workshop feel. So I love that.
It was,
I saw pictures. It looked great. It
amazing. Was so, and there's a way on Zoom to pin, so we had Bethany's face talking and we had her hands, and those were the two things that you can see. Plus then we, went to the audience, and it wasn't, we're keeping it kind of manageable size, small. So you do feel like it might be a little daunting at first. Can I really ask a question? But by the end, it was like we were sitting around together. It was so cool.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Well, this has been such a great conversation. I could talk to you forever, but But yes, check out the links for all the cool things that Margo's doing. Listen to Windowsill Chats, because if you like the conversations that I have, this is the same kind of thing that she does on her podcast. And thank you again, Margo.
Oh my gosh, so great to be here. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Silver, and I've been a professional surface pattern designer for almost 2 decades. When I left my in-house design job to run my own business, I had a lot of industry experience, but building a strong client base still took way longer than I expected. And part of that was because there's both a lot and not enough information out there about how to do this. You've been down the Google rabbit hole, you know. Fast forward to now, when I sometimes turn down client work because I'm booked solid. It's for that exact reason that I created Start Your Surface Pattern Business. In this course, I help you cut through the overwhelm and give you a super clear path to becoming a paid surface pattern designer. I provide you with the tools you need to focus on your goals, get yourself set up so you make a killer first impression, and then find and pitch the clients that are right for your artwork. And I do it in the most straightforward, simple way possible. Nothing extra, just distraction-free lessons and to-do lists, plus insights from an industry insider that will help you get the confidence you need to move forward. The most exciting thing is hearing from my students about landing their first client or licensing contract as they start taking the proactive approach that I am such a fan of. You don't need to spend years building a portfolio of hundreds of patterns and illustrations, and you don't need to get stuck comparing yourself to artists on Instagram. What you need is to take concrete steps forward to build the career that you want. And Start Your Surface Pattern Business is all about taking imperfect action. If you've got a portfolio of designs that you've been building and you're ready to level up, enroll to get started today. Thanks so much for watching my video. Be sure to subscribe and share with your surface pattern design friends.